Howdy folks. The Old Fashioned is considered the OG of all cocktails. But with so many versions, how do you know which one is the best? Well, lucky for you, I've made them all, so you don't have to. Stick around and I'll show you how to make the greatest Old Fashioned of all time. Welcome to Birdman's Bar and Grill. This is the first video in our cocktail series, and today is the original, and I have a secret that will elevate your Old Fashioned to the next level. Before we get started with making the cocktail, I'm going to give you a brief history. Okay, so the first written record of cocktails dates back to 1806 in a New York newspaper, where at the time they wrote about a mix of spirits, water, sugar and bitters. Now that's very much like the cocktail that we know today. By the 1860s, bartenders had started adding liqueurs and absinthe to whiskey cocktails. After a while, patrons started asking for a drink made the old-fashioned way, and that's how the name that we know today was penned. A little bit more history. The Penn Dentist Club in Louisville, Kentucky, along with James E. Pepper, were originally credited with taking the Old Fashioned to the Waldorf Astoria in New York. Bit of romanticism there, but that has since been debunked. Another fun fact, there is a James E. Pepper 1776 bourbon, which pays homage to the man himself, James E. Pepper. That's about it for the history. Next, we're going to get into making the cocktail. With so many versions of the Old Fashioned available, how do you know which one to choose? It could be a straight bourbon, it could be using rye whiskey, it could be a high rye bourbon, it could be using a high proof bourbon. There's even versions that use single malt scotch or blended scotch. And dating back to Prohibition times, when whiskey was scarce, they even started using gin to make their Old Fashions. Apart from the whiskey or the spirit in there, there's also the bitters, and the amount that can vary greatly. Some recipes state as low as 2 dashes or up to 6. Mine, I like to go slightly on the higher side, and I'll show you how I balance that out. There's differences in the types of sugars, whether it's sugar syrup or sugar cubes, and the different types of sugar cubes. Even the garnish can vary, whether you're putting orange in there, maraschino cherries, luxardo cherries, lemon rind. There's a whole host of different garnishes that people use with an Old Fashioned as well. So I'm going to talk you through the process of making the Old Fashioned and why I chose each ingredient and why I think this stands out from the crowd. All right, let's get started. Now, first thing I've got here is 10 mils of sugar syrup. Now, a lot of people suggest that a sugar cube is the way to go. I prefer syrup. What that actually does is it allows you to mix the drink consistently. A lot of people like the graininess of the sugar cube in the bottom of the drink and it gets sweeter as you go on. I prefer it to be consistent the whole way through. That's why I'm going with sugar syrup. I've already got it poured in here. I'm using 10 mils. Some recipes say 7, but I add just that little bit more because I use more bitters. So the sugar actually counteracts and balances that out nicely. So you've got the sweetness and you've got that little bite from the bitters. I'm using 10 mil. In we go. All right, next up, we're going to add the bitters. 5 dashes of the Angostura bitters. Okay, that's the 5. And then next, I'm going to add in 60 mils of Maker's Mark. Now this is the 90 proof Maker's Mark. that little bit higher proof. The 80 proof, I think, doesn't stand up to the dilution of the ice as well. So the 90 proof just holds that sweet spot in the drink just that little bit longer. What you're looking for is about 1/3 of the way through it to hit the right balance so that the drink can sit there for a minute or so before you serve it, or whoever you're serving it to picks it up and starts, and then after their second or third sip, it's right in that sweet spot. So the 90 proof Maker's Mark is what I'm going with. I prefer that because it's actually a wheated bourbon and it really has that cherry influence, which I think goes extremely well with an old fashioned. So 60 mils of the Maker's Mark. All right, we pour that in. Now you can use any bourbon you like, really. This is just my preference. I've used many in the past, and I think that this one really stands up well and complements the cherry, which we're going to have on our garnish. All right, so we're just going to add an ice cube in now, and we're going to stir and chill that drink down. Probably give it a stir for about 20 to 30 seconds, just to ensure there's that little bit of dilution and at the base of the mixing glass, and you can feel when the drink actually starts to chill. Sorry, my stirring skills are not awesome, but I can feel that that's starting to get a little bit cooler. So I think what we're going to do is just let that sit for a little bit. And what we're going to do next is actually add the secret ingredient to my recipe. I've got this little contraption here which is called the Smoke Pub, and shout out to my man Rowan who gifted me this. This is a great little tool. Instead of actually using a flame or a torch, this is actually USB powered, and you just press a button and it will create the smoke that you are looking for. So this is what's going to elevate your old fashioned to that next level. Putting smoke in the drink is just going to add that hint of luxury and a bit of mystery to the drink itself. So just going to close that up so it doesn't get all messy. There we go. Put the top on. She's right to go. And when the light goes green, hopefully you can see that, you press and you're going to see the smoke get released into the glass. You can see it's coming out the side already. So that's just going to add that little bit of luxury to the drink, a little bit of smoke. It's not going to be overpowering. It's not going to be like drinking an Islay Scotch. All right, so we'll just let that sit there. I think that's probably chilled quite nicely now. I will get my strainer and we'll move the glass out the way. Have a look at that. You can see plenty of smoke in there. And we're just going to strain that in. Get that last bit out. We'll just set that aside. And we're just going to put a fresh ice cube in. That one's hit the floor, so I'm going to have to grab another one. Lucky I grabbed some extras. All right, you can still see that smoke is hanging around a little bit, and we're just going to get some orange rind, which I peeled earlier. Just express the oils over that and just give it a bit of a wipe. Just release some of those beautiful flavors. And there is our garnish. And that is our smoked old fashioned. I really love this drink. I think it is the next level compared to a standard old fashioned, and hopefully you like it too. Okay, let's get to the tasting, and coming in now is the lovely Lainey, my wife. She's going to be joining us to taste the majority of cocktails. There's a few that she may not be, some of the stronger ones perhaps you might not want to taste, but the old fashioned is one that you're pretty familiar with. Now, I want you to take a sip and tell me what you get from that. Now, Lainey doesn't know how I've made this drink, so you can take the garnish and you're going to take the... Yeah, of course you can eat the cherry. I know they're one of your favourites. Yeah, absolutely. So...
Nice ice in there, which is perfect for me.
Yeah, you've got to have a chilled drink. Absolutely. Can you pick anything from that?
Does it have a little smoke in it?
It does.
No.
Yep. I've actually used this thing. I don't know whether I've showed you this before, but this is the smoke pub. What you actually do is you put the wood chips inside. It's USB powered, and that just ignites it and actually imparts smoke into your drink. So it's a great little tool. Better than flame on a piece of board or using the other contraptions that people have. So it's actually done a really good job. So out of 10, what do you give that one?
Well, I'm not like a huge whiskey fan, but with some ice, I think it makes it just go down easier. I don't know. I'd say it's like maybe a 9.
A 9. All right. Well, we're going to have to try and get you to a 10 at some point during this series. 9 out of 10 is not a bad start. All right. So summing up, please like, subscribe, share this with your friends. The smoke in the old fashioned elevates your cocktail to that next level. And that's what we're all about here at BBG, helping you take your cocktail game to the next level. So until next time, cheers.
Cheers. I'm taking this.
Okay.